What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here, and it's been a couple of months since the X-Files Season 10, I don't know, I guess people are calling it Season 10, I was always just calling it the X-Files Revival, but the 6-episode miniseries that came out earlier this year, it's been a couple of months since it finished, and I was mostly just waiting to try and gather my thoughts, and then it got to a point where I just kept forgetting to film my review of it. But anyone who's been watching my reviews of the main X-Files series over the last year or so knows that I hate the X-Files. It all sucks. I don't think there was a single season of this series that I thought was just good all the way across the board. There were seasons that had good episodes, and there were a few characters in the show that I liked a lot more than other characters, but there was not a single season that I thought was just 100% good. And surprise, surprise, this season sucks. But the big difference here and my views on the main series is that everyone else in the world seems to think that this season sucks also. And I think part of that is because the series leaves a whole lot of questions up in the air that are not resolved. The thing is, that's what the X-Files always does. The X-Files left a whole bunch of questions unresolved in like each season of the main series. The main series ends with the FBI hunting down Mulder, and you got these super soldiers that have this weird thing on the back of their neck, and they've infiltrated the FBI, and they are at the very top, and so there's seemingly no way at all that the good guys are ever going to win. And I'm going to let you in on a small spoiler here, but none of that is ever even touched on here. We get a whole bunch of stuff from the main series that is touched on. We get like 2 episodes that are hinting about the return of Mulder and Scully's baby, which was a thing that I never thought was going to come back. I really hoped that it wouldn't come back because that whole subplot was not handled very well, and I just didn't want them to do a thing where, oh, Mulder and Scully's baby is really special, it's an alien baby, and it's going to end up being really crucial in this story, and they're kind of hinting that that's what's going on in this miniseries, and I just did not want the return of Mulder and Scully's baby. I just wasn't interested in that. But then you got, like, the super soldiers thing. That's not even mentioned at all. So, are the super soldiers still in the government? We don't know. The big reason that I didn't like this season is that it tries to tell us that everything that we knew about the X-Files, about the previous 20-something years of X-Files stories, whether it was the I Want to Believe movie or the 9 years of the TV show, it tries to tell us that all of that didn't actually happen. In the very first episode, we are told that the aliens are real, but there is no actual planned alien invasion. The aliens themselves are not planning on invading, it's just the government trying to make people think that aliens are invading. This is stupid because at one point in the series, actual aliens came down to Earth and killed actual human beings. It was the cigarette-smoking man and his Shadow Confederacy, all of those guys who wore suits and were planning for the alien invasion. All of those guys, except for Cigarette Smoking Man and Diana Fowley, all of those guys got killed by aliens. So you cannot then turn around and tell me that the aliens are not actually the threat and that the government is just using the aliens. Are you going to tell me that there is an even more secret government conspiracy agency that was using these aliens and remote controlling them to kill the Cigarette Smoking Man's allies? I don't think so. That's just stupid. You've also got a few episodes here that, while they weren't really tied with the mythology of the series, I just didn't like them. There was an episode where Scully's mom dies. I didn't really have to have Scully's mom even come back. If you had told me that Scully's mom died somewhere in between Season 9 and this season, that would have been good enough for me. I didn't really need Scully's mom to come back just to die on us. Also, we get an episode with these Muslim terrorists, and then Mulder has to take drugs to try and figure out where the main headquarters of the Muslim terrorists are, and that's also the episode that introduces us to what I am calling Mulder Jr. and Scully Jr. We've got this guy who wants to believe, we got this red-headed agent who doesn't want to believe, and the main problem that I had with these two, a lot of people just didn't like them because they were afraid that this show is going to try and do an X-Files spinoff with these two and gently and quietly get rid of David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. I don't care about that, because either way, I'm never watching anything X-Files related ever again. I didn't care if these two kids get a spinoff, and one of them is played by Ronnie from The Flash, Firestorm. One of them is played by that guy, Stephen Amell's cousin. I can't remember his name. But anyway, the problem that I had with these two is that this woman that they have playing Scully Jr. is a lot more mean-spirited than Scully ever was. She is just really rude and mean to just about everyone in the show. She's mean to Scully, she's mean to Mulder, she's mean to Mulder Jr., and Scully was never that way. Scully almost always disagreed with Mulder, but she was at least nice about it. She was at least willing to put up with Mulder's antics and say, okay, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. But this woman was just really abrasive about it, and I didn't like her, and I didn't really get anything from Mulder Jr. He was just kind of there. At one point we find out that he can speak Arabic, and both of these agents, they come back in the series finale or the season finale, whatever, and I just didn't really care about them at all. We also get an episode, I think it's the one where Scully's mom dies, where this guy, he's able to bring paintings to life or something. That was one of those that just didn't make any sense at all. The whole reveal about what the monster was that they were fighting just didn't make any sense. And then we had an episode with these siblings. Their dad was an evil mad scientist doctor. The siblings have been separated when they were very young. One of them when literally just being born. They get reunited, and then they have superpowers, kind of like North Star and Aurora from Alpha Flight. Whenever they touch each other, their powers are like made even better. It's something kind of like that. They have powers, they kill their dad, and then they escape. We don't ever see them ever again. And that was one where I really felt like we should have had a follow-up to the Eve 6, Eve 10, Eve 1. You remember that episode from X-Files Season 1 where it was this cloning project with all these Adams and Eves, and a couple of the Eves had been raised like thousands of miles apart on opposite sides of the country, and then they, at the same time, killed their parents. I was really thinking that this would have been a good opportunity to have done a follow-up to that story, which was one of my favorite X-Files Season 1 episodes. The only episode in this entire season that I actually liked was one that had, I don't know his name in real life, but Murray from Flight of the Conchords. He was this lizard monster guy, and that whole episode was hilarious. And like always, anytime the X-Files goes for a more humorous episode, I always like it a lot more than when it tries to take itself way too seriously. I really liked The Curse of the Were-Monster. I think that was the name of the episode. I thought that one was fantastic. If 4/6 of this season had been funny, then I would have liked the season a lot more. But overall, I only liked one episode of this whole season. The final episode, we find out that the government is releasing this plague on humanity, and anybody who does not have alien DNA injected into them is going to die. And we're told that the smallpox scars, that's how you got the alien DNA injected in you. And that was a big part of the mythology of the original series, where everyone had smallpox scars, and we were led to believe that that was because the government was like cataloging all these humans, like taking notes on every single human whenever they got their smallpox vaccination. Here's the problem with bringing that up again now in the year 2016. Alright, I am 26 years old. I'm assuming that Mulder Jr. and Scully Jr. are just a couple of years older than me. They're not much more than 30 years old. If they're 30, they're right at 30. They're not any older than that, okay? The problem is that people around my age do not have smallpox scars. Both of my parents have them. That's a thing that they used to do back in the 70s. That is not a thing that they do now. That's something that they stopped. I don't remember when, but they stopped at some point in the past before I was old enough to have a smallpox scar. So by the time you got to the early 90s, they had already stopped doing smallpox scars. So you've got these two younger agents, and one of them is like, yeah, I have a scar too. And I'm like, no, you don't. You're way too young to have a smallpox scar. And maybe, for all I know, Scully Jr. is like 46 years old. I don't know, but she didn't look that old. She looked like, and they were playing her like she was a young FBI recruit, like just out of Quantico. They weren't playing her as being closer to Mulder and Scully's age. But we're told that the cigarette-smoking man, working with Agent Reyes from the last 2 seasons of The X-Files, she is basically, she claims that she was forced to work with this guy, because if she doesn't, she's going to die along with most of humanity. So she chooses to work with him, and then she will get to survive this big apocalypse. So Agent Reyes, and if you're a fan of Agent Reyes, as I was, you're not going to like this revelation. Believe believe it or not, by the time they reveal that she's working with the cigarette-smoking man, I didn't really care anymore. I did like her character in the last couple of seasons of The X-Files. She was, in my opinion, kind of a shining light in that series, but by this point, I was just like looking at my watch, just ready for this show to be over with. But she is revealing that, and the cigarette-smoking man also, they're kind of both revealing to different characters what's going on. Basically, there's going to be like 98% of humanity is going to be wiped out by this super plague, and then anyone who has alien DNA is going to be saved, and it's going to be a smaller humanity. Earth is going to be saved. Cigarette-smoking man, somehow he survived the rocket thrown at him at the end of X-Files Season 9, somehow, and he's behind all of this. Once again, I didn't have to have the cigarette-smoking man return. It could have been some other threat. Honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. This whole season would have been a lot better if there was not some big overall threat connecting these episodes, because really it's just the first and last episode of the season that are connected, and the other 4 episodes are just standalone episodes. I would have been perfectly fine with all 6 of these episodes being standalone and not having some kind of storyline, because as is what happens, they don't actually tie anything up. The series ends with Scully and Mulder realizing that they have to find their son because they can use his blood to inoculate everybody against this plague, and unfortunately they don't know where their son is, and I don't understand why they can't just use Scully's blood. I know that probably wouldn't be enough, but you know, use your science mumbo jumbo and you can like distill it and find a cure or whatever that you can create for everybody in the world. But for some reason Scully's blood would be okay, and then they jump to this point where they say, oh, we're going to need to find our son so that we can use his blood too. And then a giant spaceship comes out of nowhere, and we end the series with Scully looking up at the spaceship. And I guess maybe this is supposed to be a big, oh, Scully finally believes moment, except that Scully has come to the point where she believes a few different times already by now. She has seen stuff. She has seen stuff that she absolutely cannot deny with her own 2 eyes. So this is not really a big moment because she already knows that aliens exist. She's known that for a little while, and she should have known it even longer than that. Way back in like season 3, when she actually physically saw aliens, she should have known that aliens existed even way back then. But you've got basically this whole season is just one big what the heck moment. They're building towards something, and then they don't even pay it off. They're just like, okay, that's it. We're just going to end it. And I guess they're hoping that fans are going to be so enthralled by this, they're going to be so angry that they got this big cliffhanger ending that's not resolved, that they're going to petition for an X-Files Season 11. Well, I am done. I am completely done with the X-Files. I have hated every moment of it. There have been maybe less than a tenth of all the episodes that I saw were actually any good. This season was just a big, huge waste of time. The only reason last year that I started watching the X-Files and reviewing it on my channel was so that I could prepare for this miniseries. And I thought this miniseries might actually be decent and might actually tie some stuff up. No, it's the X-Files. What was I thinking? It doesn't tie anything up. It just leaves more questions. Overall, I would have to say, if you were kind of middle of the road on the original X-Files, if you were like me, or you were just kind of on the fence about it, you weren't really sure what you thought of it, you didn't like it, but you didn't necessarily hate it as much as I do, and you were thinking, maybe I should give this 6-episode miniseries a try, I would say, no, don't waste your time. Just find and watch Curse of the Weremonster. That's the only thing that you need to watch. All these episodes are basically crap, and I would have to say X-Files, as a whole, in general, is basically crap. There's really nothing well, I can't even think of the word I was going for here. There's nothing rewarding here about this season. It's all just kind of a big pile of garbage. It feels like they needed more episodes to try and tie up what they were doing here, but at the same time, if they had more episodes, they would have just wasted it on standalone episodes like the paint monster guy or the weird sibling twins with their powers. They would have wasted it on stuff like that, and they wouldn't have actually spent that time trying to tie up this big storyline that they've got going on here. So overall, I did not like this season. I don't think that it works for somebody who has never seen the X-Files before. They're probably going to be very confused about what's going on. What's all this mess about smallpox scars? Who's this guy smoking a cigarette? Who's Agent Reyes? If you've never seen the X-Files before, this isn't going to work for you. And if you're a big, huge fan of the original X-Files series, this probably isn't going to work for you because it's trying to contradict virtually everything from the original series. So I don't think that this show really would work for anybody. I can't see it being something that people would enjoy, whether you're a fan of the original or you're coming at it fresh. So those are my thoughts on the X-Files Season 10 / the revival. I hated it. I think a lot of other people hated it too. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And also, if you like this video, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back later with some other videos this week and next week. So I will see you guys in the future. Have a great rest of the day.